Detective Inugami gets a flat tire on the way to his lodging, but luckily, he's given a lift by his client. She explains the incident of rotten animal corpses found around the village. She begs that he investigate secretly. However, she's unsure how he'll do that in his flashy outfit. At the lodge, some kids spy on him, so he decides to look around. He tries greeting a boy working on the field. However, he bows and continues his work. While relaxing in the bath, he is attended to by Yatero, who offers to wash his back. Inugami asks him about the other boy in the field, so he tells him that the boy is called Dorotabo. He was born with a terrible body odor, so he isn't allowed near other people. The next day, he tells the hostess to have Dorotabo attend to him instead. Thereafter, Dorotabo, who is our main protagonist, begins attending to him. He asks if he notices anything strange in the fields, so the boy reveals that he is the one tasked with the disposal of the rotten animals. He notes that he always does this after every full moon. Inugami begins hanging around Dorotabo, much to the surprise of the villagers. He helps him handle his duties as he awaits the next full moon. He notices a stone on Dorotabo's neck, so he offers to have a look. He reveals to him that the stone is a life stone given to him by his parents. At night, Yatero confronts Dorotabo for stealing his spot. He bullies him and cuts his stone necklace. Dorotabo punches him in anger and begins transforming into a monster. He quickly reaches for the stone necklace, which turns him back into a human. Inugami finds him hiding after discovering he is a monster. He pulls down his trousers, revealing a tail. He explains that he is a creature called a kimono, and Dorotabo is a hanyo, the child of a kimono and a human. They realize that Yatero is in danger, so they rush to his location. Here, he is attacked by ghouls. Inugami and Dorotabo attack the beasts by cutting off their heads. They notice the leader, who is extremely fast, so Dorotabo assists him and they are able to defeat it. Inugami reveals to Dorotabo that his real job was to eliminate him. He asks what his real name is, and after his response, he shoots him. Dorotabo, now known as Kabane, comes back to life in Inugami's car. He tells him that as a ghoul, he won't die unless his head is cut off. Inugami shelters him at his agency, where he meets with two other kids named Shiki and Akira, who work with him as a kimonoist. He explains that the agency takes care of cases involving kimonos secretly. Kabane compliments Akira, saying she is a beautiful girl. However, he gets mad because he is a boy. They get a job the next day, so they all head out in Inugami's car. They arrive at the scene. Here, they are allowed entry as specialists. Inside, they have a case of bug infestation. Inugami explains that something is attracting the bugs in the room. Shiki tries to use his silk thread to remedy the situation, but the bugs chew it up easily. Kabane offers to go in to get the item, and the others try to discourage him. However, he assures them that would be fine. Once inside, the bugs infest his body instantly, but he doesn't feel pain because he has no blood for them to feed on. He acquires the object, which he points to the light. This makes the bugs disappear instantly. Inugami reveals that the cause of the bug infestation was the feeling of guilt that is attached to the stolen sneakers. After the job, Kabane agrees to join his agency in exchange. Inugami has to help him look for his parents. The next day, Inugami tells the group to go and show Kabane to Inari, a kitsune kimono acquaintance who has influence within the police. At the station, Shiki's group asks to see Inari, but the register refuses them because they are kids. However, her assistant called Kan arrives at the scene and asks for Kabane, only so Shiki and Akira are left behind. He is led to a room and tossed inside. Here he meets Inari, who introduces herself to him. She asks to see his life stone, so he hands it to her. She explains that with the life stone, which is said to curb kimono's thirst, she wouldn't have to feed off of humans anymore. His head is instantly sliced off by Kan. They separate his body from his head by placing them in separate boxes. Inari orders Kan to eliminate Kabane's companions downstairs. She arrives downstairs by disguising herself as Kabane. However, she gets pissed by Shiki's provocation and reveals her true form. She attacks them by repeatedly shooting fireballs from her tail. Shiki manages to steal the case in her possession. He opens it to discover Kabane's head inside. They take shelter to avoid Kan's rampage, but Kabane's talking head asks Shiki to throw him at Kan. After throwing him, he bites on her neck. The entire station goes back to normal, revealing the entire scene to be an illusion. Kabane's body grows back in full. This surprises Shiki, who gets weirded out. At the same time, the life stone in Inari's possession turns out to be a fake Inugami that shape-shifted to trick her. The group head home but is confronted by Kan, who is still after Kabane's head. However, she loses consciousness, so they take her and end up feeding her. They receive a client who reveals he is having a love problem. On hearing the topic of love, Kabane volunteers to help with the mission so he also can learn about the topic. The client, called Yuruno, suddenly attacks a mouse on sight. He explains that he cannot help himself. Inugami tells them Yuruno is possessed by a Nekomata. They go with him to help out. However, while they wait for his love interest, they notice a cat which they follow. They tell it that Yuruno has fallen in love with her. However, she transforms and reveals that she plans on adding him to her ranks of cats. Kan picks her up, forcing her to listen to Yuruno's love confession. He tells her he doesn't mind living as a cat for her. At the office, Inugami shapeshifts an orange as Kabane's head and hands it to Kan for helping out. At their request, Inugami assigns a mission to Akira and Kabane, although he freaks out after hearing the mission involves dirt in a sewer. He prepares appropriate clothing so they can head into the sewer together. He tells Kabane how he reminds him of his twin brother, who Inugami is helping her look for. He explains that after they left their village, they got separated on their way to Tokyo. Akira is suddenly attacked by a frog kimono. However, Kabane saves him, but a tanuki shows up to defeat them monster. The tanuki is a messenger from Inugami. It shows them a letter stating they have to attract all the frog kimono and defeat them. The frogs rush out of the water to attack the group in mass, but Kabane handles them while Akira is too scared to lift a finger. When he sees that Kabane is in danger, he accidentally releases his ice power, which freezes up the entire sewer. While cleaning, Kabane is pulled into a room. Here there's a man named Mihai who begins exploiting him. Mihai is a vampire. He explains he has always been inside the office providing ICT support for Inugami. He appoints Kabane as his attendant. However, the others won't have it, so he challenges them to arm wrestling, which he wins each time flawlessly. Kabane goes out. He ponders on getting stronger. He encounters Kon, who reveals that she has been replaced with another kitsune by Inari. Kabane asks Kon to spar with him. They begin fighting, but she gets defeated easily. She starts crying and screaming how weak she is, so Kabane comforts her. At the office, Mihai comes out for the first time. He reveals that Kabane broke his wrist during their arm wrestling, so he can't play his video games anymore. Shiki and the party are given a new mission by Mihai, so they head to the location. They are to investigate a shady company with a high record of employee suicide rate, which suddenly dropped to 0. Once inside, Shiki takes a peek at the workroom. He notices that the workers are severely strained. One of them runs out to quit. However, he meets the manager on his way out. She leads him to a room where his brain gets sucked by a mosquito girl. He then returns to work like a zombie. Mihai notices Shiki trying to play it safe by fleeing, so he reveals his location to the enemies using his remote vehicle. The group of mosquito girls come out to investigate the sound while Shiki hides with his camouflage skill. However, one of them who has transformed notices him. He is scared silly, so Mihai's vehicle electrocutes her before she attacks. Shiki is traumatized by the looks of the mosquito kimono and is unable to move a muscle. He's brought back to reality when Kabane informs him that they have defeated one of the enemies. He then uses his camouflage ability to hide again. The mosquito girl tries to find him with her ultra senses. However, she falls for Shiki's web trap. As Shiki and the group rendezvous to plot their next line of action, the leader of the mosquito squad shows up. She sucks out the brains of her sisters and evolves into a gross full-blown mosquito. The group's attacks on her are fruitless as she easily knocks Shiki and Akira down, leaving Kabane to struggle for his life. Mihai advises him on how to utilize his kimono power. He takes the advice and gains a tremendous amount of power immediately. He completely overwhelms her with his new power, making her surrender. Shortly after, Inari's assistant, called Nabamaru, arrives and Inugami orders them to leave the rest to him. He burns their bodies to ash, explaining that humans must not find out about them in any way. The group heads to the mountains to investigate Shiki's parents. They arrive at the town. Here Inugami leaves them alone to pass time. They find a book about a folklore. The book tells the story of a man called Shigi who was kind to a spider. The next morning, the spider weaved beautiful golden webs around his home. He sold the web and became a very rich man. Inugami returns with Shiki's uncle called Tademaru. They head to the forest together, where he starts narrating Shiki's past, and the group leaves Shiki alone to listen to the tale. Later, he comes back to tell them that his parents are dead. At the bath, they are joined by Nabamaru, who suggests they explore the forest together. Once there, Shiki's memory is triggered and he starts running around. He arrives at a cabin where he has flashbacks of a horrible memory of his mother being experimented on. Inugami has a chat with Tademaru. He reveals how he carried out several experiments on Shiki's mother with her consent. This was done to raise money for them to live a comfortable life. The experiment involved creating a special web that can cure diseases. After his story, Inugami reveals Shiki has been listening to his confession. Shiki binds him with his web in preparation to kill him. However, Akira arrives at the scene whining about being left behind. He is attacked by a spider monster but is saved by Inugami, who is poisoned in the process. A horde of similar monsters suddenly reveal themselves. They save Tademaru, who reveals that the monsters are all Shiki's siblings made as a result of his experiment with his mother. They start talking to him in his mother's voice, traumatizing him and making him finally snap. Inugami and Akira find themselves in a tight spot. However, a girl who appears to control the creatures comes to their aid. Kabane engages the creatures who try to attack Shiki. Meanwhile, Tademaru calls in a giant monster who Kabane engages immediately along with the others. The girl brings Inugami to a spring. Here, she tells him the spring would heal his poisoned arm. By this time, Kabane has annihilated all the monsters. He tosses Tademaru toward Shiki. He realizes that killing his uncle won't bring back his mother. Inugami arrives with the little girl called Aya. She begs that they spare Tademaru's life until he reveals the location of her cocoon. Inugami offers to help her find the cocoon he seems to be trying so hard to hide. He calls Mihai, who gives him a lead on where to search. Aya and Shiki quickly run to the spot. Once there, Shiki offers to dive in. He finds a passage that leads to his mother's body wrapped in a cocoon. Thanks to Aya's cocoon, his mother is still alive, so Inugami permits Shiki to take her with them to the city. Tademaru is left behind filled with regret. However, Nabamaru returns to finish him off. Shiki's mother is taken to a hospital where she is treated by an old doctor. He stays by her side until the night. Aya is wary of him, thinking he hates her. Shiki explains that it is thanks to her their mother is still alive and they end up having a sibling bond. His mother awakens to see her two kids beside her. Back at the agency, Inugami gives a job to Kabane and Akira. They miss Shiki, who decides to take care of his mother until she recovers. However, Shiki appears out of the blue along with Aya. She asks Kabane out and he agrees instantly. Kon appears and isn't happy with Aya hugging Kabane. Inugami explains the mission, which involves an invisible kimono who peels off pretty ladies' faces. Akira and Shiki pass out from irritation. However, Aya along with Kon offers to assist Kabane. When they arrive at the scene, Kon is still jealous that Kabane is paying more attention to Aya. She hears a voice who offers to help her. Immediately, Aya is pulled by an invisible force, but Kabane throws a punch and saves her. The culprit reveals her true form, stating her name to be Katanashi. She reveals that she only steals people's faces because she wants to be pretty enough to approach a human she loves. At the same time, Kon loses control and tries to attack Aya for ruining her relationship with Kabane, but he won't let her. She runs away in tears. Akira remembers his past with his brother. He takes her for a walk in the snow. However, they are dragged back to the village where they can be watched and cared for. This is because the existence of their village is tied with both of them being twin boys. At the agency, Akira is super uncoordinated. He ends up breaking things or spilling things, thereby making more work for Shiki, who is now seriously angry at him. Due to this, Akira gets frustrated and leaves the agency. In town, he stumbles on his long-lost brother called Yui. He asks why he isn't with Inugami, so he explains that he got frustrated with getting in everyone's way. In the evening, they have walked a long way out of town. Akira starts daydreaming about the kind of house he'd love them to stay in. However, his brother makes her dream come through by making an ice castle out of nothing. The castle is too beautiful, so Akira tries to take a picture, but Yui freezes his phone and stomps it, saying he has no use for it anymore. So he goes out and locks Akira inside. At the agency, Kabane and Shiki are finding it difficult to handle the chores Akira normally does. They decide to go look for him in his ice castle. Once there, they meet a bunch of spectators admiring the structure. Yui comes out of the castle to attack the journalist. However, Inugami intervenes. He reveals on his chest a nullstone. Inugami explains that the nullstone gives its user excess power but also brings destruction. Yui comes upstairs to tell Akira he has finished furnishing the castle. When he comes down, he finds his friends frozen. Akira falls into tears thinking they are all dead, but his AI plushie tells him they are still alive. Yui recalls the memory of his time with Akira in the village. He was made the village chief and made to endure all forms of trauma at a young age. Only Akira was his light in the midst of everything. While Akira thinks of how to unfreeze the group, Kabane breaks in two. However, his lower half grows back as usual. He tells Akira that his brother is being influenced by the nullstone. Kabane explains that he is going to fight Yui, but only Akira knows how strong his brother really is. So he lies that he wants nothing to do with them anymore and leaves the place along with Yui. At the castle, Kabane tries to unfreeze the rest, but Inari shows up and asks for his help in retrieving the nullstone. On their way out of the forest, Akira and Yui are attacked by Nabamaru. They engage in a fierce battle of fire and ice while Akira is forced to spectate the battle. Nabamaru succeeds in getting close enough to grab the stone, but he is repelled by the cold. Yui tells him he won't be able to hold it since the Kitsune are weak against cold. As Nabamaru begins contemplating his next line of action, he loses concentration and is attacked by Yui. However, Kabane arrives in time to defend him. Kabane is set on fire by Nabamaru. This form allows him to melt Yui's ice to some extent. Yui absorbs more of the stone's power to keep up with Kabane. They keep up with the intense fight for a while. However, Kabane gains the upper hand, but as soon as he aims for the finishing blow, Akira stops him. Nabamaru explains that Yui's life force is being sucked by the nullstone. Akira, on hearing this, tries to rip out the stone. However, he receives Yui's memory of the past. Kabane regenerates and combines his lifestone's power. This nullifies the effect of the nullstone, which is then now fused with Kabane's lifestone. Inari appears to take the fused stone but is stopped by Inugami, who urges her to return it to him. After the battle, Kabane asks about the fused stone. Yui only has an idea of its origins, which dates back to the kimono incidents. Inugami explains that the kimono incident was a bloody war between Kabane and humans that happened 1,000 years ago. Nabamaru meets with Kon to deliver a mission. He tells her she is to fall in love with Kabane and make him give up his fused stone willingly. The next day, Akira prepares to go on a vacation with his brother. Afterward, Inugami heads out with Kabane to look for clues about his parents. Kon appears and insists on following them. Although Inugami knows Inari has a plan, he lets her tag along. And this brings the anime to an end. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on another video. Until next time, take care.